Welcome back, John Hay Jaguars. We're reading Hero Dog, and Hildy and her sister Lizzie are trying to solve the mystery of the break-in so they can report it in their newspaper by 6 o'clock that night. And they were going to the Kind Cat Cafe when we stopped. So now we are on We are on chapter 8, Zeus on the Loose. Mr. McIntosh and Mrs. Taggart were arguing right in the middle of the street. Zeus was there too. He came over and started licking my shoe. "You and that no-good dog of yours stole my pie," Mrs. Taggart shouted, wagging her finger. "You knew your cheesecake couldn't beat my cherry crumb pie fair and square, so you cheated. You took it right off my windowsill and fed it to your dog. Fess up." Mrs. Taggart might be small, but at that moment she looked like she could win a fight against a brain-eating zombie. I jotted down everything, waiting to speak. So we have some more notes to put in our notebook over here. So the first is what. So now we're missing the cherry crumb pie. Remember Mrs. Taggart was making that when Hildy was there questioning her earlier. So now we're missing a cherry crumb pie. And where? Well, it was at Mrs. Taggart's house. And when? Well, it was within the last hour. So I have that note here, and I'll put that under when. So we still have things disappearing in town. "I would never steal your pie," Mr. McIntosh argued. "And Zeus was on his leash when your pie was stolen. He couldn't have eaten it." Mrs. Taggart looked down at Zeus. His little tail hid between his legs. "Besides," Mr. McIntosh continued, "I don't need to cheat to win. I beat you once before, and I would have beaten you again this year if somebody hadn't stolen my eggs. Everyone knows the only reason your cheesecake beat my pie 2 years ago because it was a horrible year for cherries," said Mrs. Taggart. She glared at Mr. McIntosh. Mr. McIntosh glared back. Finally, I saw my opportunity to jump in. "Excuse me, Mr. McIntosh, but earlier today you said, and I quote, 'Sweet smells make my animals go crazy, especially poor Zeus.' Are you—" "You wrote that down?" he interrupted. "I'm a reporter. I write everything down," I replied. "So are you sure Zeus couldn't have had something to do with Mrs. Taggart's missing pie?" Before Mr. McIntosh could answer, Zeus's leash slipped out of his hand. "Zeus!" screamed Mr. McIntosh, chasing his dog down the street. Mrs. Taggart shook her head. "See, he can't control that dog." "Mrs. Taggart," I said, trying to get my interview back on track, "where is your pie dish?" "I have no clue. His wild pie-stealing dog must have run off with it," she replied. "Well, what does your dish look like?" I asked. "It's blue, one-of-a-kind ceramic pie dish with roses painted on it. I'll never be able to replace it," Mrs. Taggart said as she headed home. "I wish that dog would have saved me a piece of pie," Izzy said. "I don't think Zeus stole the pie," I said. I had a feeling there was more to this sickeningly sweet story. So I made a few notes. Ooh, more for our notebook. Notes. The first one is the pie dish has blue roses on it. So that'll go over here under notes. And another note is that a ceramic pie dish equals heavy, because ceramic would be heavy. It's not plastic. And another note is Where is the pie dish? And a tiny dog can't carry a heavy pie dish. And the last one for right now is Mr. McIntosh telling the truth? Come on, Hildy. We still have a lead to investigate, said Izzy. You're right, I agreed. Let's go to the Kind Cat Cafe. Chapter 9, Kind Cat Cafe. Izzy and I pulled up outside the Kind Cat Cafe just as Officer D drove away. We locked up our bikes. Hey, Izzy, look at this, I said. A bake-off bonanza poster was taped to the window. All you can eat sweets? We better save room, Izzy joked. Totally, I said. But check out the prize. $1,000? Izzy exclaimed. I should have gone into baking. So there's the poster that they're looking at. You can see it says Selinsgrove Bake Off Bonanza at Kind Cat Cafe, $1,000 grand prize, all you can eat sweets, and it's at 4 p.m. today. Glenn, the owner of the cafe, waved us over. He was holding a garbage bag. Two black cats, Ollie and Mr. Wigglesworth, poked their heads out from behind his legs. Hi, Glenn, I said, leaning down to pet Ollie. I was expecting you, Scoop, he said. Scoop was Glenn's nickname for me. We had become friends because his cafe was my favorite place to write. He was also a great source. I heard you call the police, I said. What happened? Well, the lunch rush had just ended, so I went into the back to restock things for today's bake-off bonanza. But then I heard something crash to the ground out front, and that's when I discovered this, he said. Glenn dropped the garbage bag on the table. I heard what sounded like clinking glass. I peeked inside and saw the ears from Glenn's special cat-shaped cookie jar. I loved that cookie jar, I cried. Why would anyone want to break it? I don't know. When I came outside, it was shattered, and the cookies were everywhere. Whoever did this left in a rush, Glenn said. After hearing about the crime on Orange Street, I thought it best to call the police. I wrote everything down. So we have another note of what, and that is Kind Cat cookie jar is smashed. So that goes in our notebook. Did you see anyone? Izzy asked. Nope, he said, heading inside. Sorry, girls. Just then, we spotted Maddie walking towards us. I know she's a manager, but a witness is a witness. I took a deep breath. Hi, Maddie, I said. Maddie looked at me like I was gum stuck to the bottom of her shoe. Hey, Hildy, she said snottily. How is your cute little baby paper? My face turned red. Izzy stepped forward, but I flashed my I got this look. I'm a serious reporter, Maddie, I said. Did you happen to see anyone coming or going from the cafe recently? Well, I saw a small dog run past, Maddie said, and right before that I saw Donnie walking down the street. Izzy and I turned to each other. Donnie. Remember when Donnie stole from our bake sale? Izzy whispered to me. Last summer, Izzy and I held a bake sale. Donnie helped himself to 2 peanut butter cookies, threw a penny in our money jar, and shouted, "Keep the change." So now we have some more notes. We have that Maddie saw a small dog. Could Zeus have knocked over the cookie jar? Oh, that one was Maddie saw Donnie. Could he be the thief? So here's the other one. Could Zeus have knocked over the cookie jar? I looked at Maddie as she walked away. I wasn't sure I trusted her, considering she's a manager, just like Donnie and Leon. But a reporter always follows up a tip. We headed inside to search for clues. Chapter 10, Flat Tire. Izzy and I took a seat at the counter. Glenn slid us a plate of bacon. It was super crispy, just the way I like it. Thanks, Glenn, I said, grabbing a piece. Lily brushed by my leg, and I reached down to give some pets. Glenn was shuffling papers around, looking for something. "Ooh, this isn't good," he said. "What's wrong, Glenn?" I asked. "I can't find my list of contestants. I know it was here earlier," he replied. "It's important. That list has every contestant's name, address, and dessert." I said, making a note of the missing list. So we have another clue. The contestant list. Could it have been stolen? Tick tock, tick tock. It was 3:20 p.m. My deadline was getting closer. We headed for the door. "I hope you find your list, Glenn," Izzy said. "Thanks, girls," Glenn replied, "and good luck with your story, Scoop." As soon as we stepped outside, Izzy froze. "Hildy, your bike!" she exclaimed. Both of my bike tires were flat. Someone had put holes in them. At first I felt angry, but then I smiled. "Why are you smiling?" Izzy asked. "Because this means the thief knows I'm hot on his or her heels," I said. "Besides, Dad can patch these tires up no problem." "I guess you're right, but this person could be dangerous," Izzy said. "Do you think it was Donnie?" "Maybe," I said. "Let's review our notes so far." I sat down, Izzy pulled up a chair, and I opened my notebook. Okay, I'm going to turn this so that you can see our notes. Get all of them. Okay, that's most of them at least. So when, this morning and this afternoon, where Mrs. Hooper's house, Mr. McIntosh's chicken coop, Mrs. Taggart's house, and the Kind Cat Cafe. What? A plate of lemon cupcakes, fresh eggs, cherry crumb pie, and a list of contestants. And how? We don't have that one in our notebook, but climbed through Mrs. Hooper's window, snuck into Mr. McIntosh's chicken coop, swiped pie from Mrs. Taggart's windowsill, snuck into the cafe while Glenn was in the back. And then who? These are her suspects. Donnie, he has a sweet tooth. Maddie saw him near the cafe. He has stolen before, but why would Donnie want a list of contestants? And Zeus, he has a sweet tooth. Maddie saw him near the cafe, but how could a dog carry a heavy pie plate? Also, dogs can't pop tires. Could Mr. McIntosh be involved? Izzy looked puzzled. "I don't think Mr. McIntosh is the thief," she said. "His eggs were stolen, remember?" "I remember," I said, looking up from my notes, "but I'm not certain Donnie's the thief, and some clues do point to Zeus or Mr. McIntosh." "Well, what are you going to do? Interview the dog?" Izzy said, laughing. My older sister thinks she's so funny. "Get serious, Izzy," I said. "We need to find a way to prove who the thief is." "Okay, but we don't have a lot of time," she replied. We both looked at our phones. It was 3:50. "You're right. Our deadline's only 2 hours away, and the bake-off bonanza is about to start. But since we know the thief has a sweet tooth, and since the stolen items all seem to be related to the contest, today's bake-off could be the perfect place to catch our thief." "Good thinking," Izzy answered, jumped up, Come on, there isn't a second to lose, I said.